It's a chilly day in the shed today and I've lit the fire. It's a good day to tackle some more unboxing. So we're now up to part 17 of the emergency storage shed treasure hunt, if you like. Hey guys, Chris and the Ultimate Recycler. It's time to do some more unboxing. Let's go for a walk. Being a gloomy day, the dogs are in the shed with me, which is a real pain. I don't normally let Caesar in here, but come on, out of the road. It's really difficult to get around in the shed just on my own, let alone having to battle dogs. They've been sleeping next to the fire, as you can see from this photo. As I said, I don't normally let Caesar in here. Come on, you can go out now. Out you go. But we have a builder here doing renovations on the bathroom, and we've had to lock them off the deck. So they're in the backyard, and seeing so it's been a bit wet, you know, I suppose I have to let them out of the rain, don't I? All right, what are we going to do today? We need to get something out of this shed for our commitment this week. I thought I might try and get these last two milk crates off the floor before I start tackling anything high. We've had a bit of a run on getting at least $100 worth of stuff out of every box, which has been quite amazing. And a few of you have suggested I should keep a running tally of how much value's in here. For those that haven't been watching, this shed was packed in a hurry when I had to move from my shop, where I'd been for 20 years. It goes back about 30 feet and it's packed to the rafters. There is some really good stuff in amongst it. There's some average stuff that just got thrown in boxes quickly. We're going through it every week. I need to get it empty. I know the stuff in that crate there was put aside for cleaning in an electrolysis tank, which I haven't got set up anymore. Let's go through that crate first and see what's in there. Okay, another crate, and there was an old wood saw next to it. I might as well deal with that as well. So the wood saw isn't anything flash. It's had replacement screws through the handle. It's not a particularly old one. It might be 1950s or so. Some of the nice early ones have usually have a plaque or a little brass disc with the maker's name on it. The earlier ones have much more nicely carved handles, and this one, the blade's pretty rusty. It feels like it's kind of sharp, but you do need to manually sharpen these wood saws, and I don't think anyone actually buys these to use anymore. Most of the saws you buy these days are a hard-tempered saw, and you use them until they're blunt, you throw them away and buy another one. Bit of a shame. I guess, you know, no one has time to sit there with a little triangle file and resharpen a wood saw these days. So even so, it will sell. People buy these things for doing folk art painting on, or just to hang in the shed as a nice, you know, rustic tool decorator item. We'd probably get $10 for that. I'm not going to do much to it. We'll just basically give it a little bit of a quick wash to get the dust off it. $10 there. Now the rest of this I was going to value add with an electrolysis cleanup, and I've done videos on electrolysis cleaning before. I haven't done any for quite some time because I had a tank set up at the shop and I haven't got one set up here yet. Let me go through what's in here and what I think it's worth. Now, 100 points for anyone that knows what they are. I'm not going to put them in the mystery object video. They're pretty obscure, and I have got about 8 or 10 of them all up. Some of them I have cleaned up. These were put aside to do. These are off a nice early Melbourne cast iron street lamp. These are the stays that go around the big glass. They originally would have probably been a gas light, and I've got one that I had dismantled to a degree, and the pole is actually out in the yard. One day we'll restore that and set it up. It had been converted to have fluorescent tubes in it, but all the metal work is quite good, so I will eventually do that up. I'll put these ones aside until I get my electrolysis tank set up again, because I'll clean these and I'll one day turn up the ones I've already cleaned, and we'll get them all together and put that lamp together one day in the future. Here we have an old cast iron fry pan. It is quite an old one. It looks like it probably had some black on the bottom. Like, I don't know if it would have been painted. It's probably more the charred remains of many things that were fried. It's probably only an ornament. I can't imagine it's even going to be useful for a camper to clean up and use. You can pick up aluminium fry pans from op shops all over the place that are much more useful than the old steel ones. I'm going to give that a really quick clean and just maybe put $5 on it in the shop. I'm not worried too much about that. It might get 10, but I'm certainly not going to clean it up with electrolysis like I had originally planned. Now that looks to me to be part of an early hood ornament or a mascot off an early car. It looks incomplete. It would be nickel-plated brass. It would probably be 1920s or 30s. It may have had wings on it or something. There was a whole lot of really nice ornate hood ornaments that were popular in the early 1900s. Some of them, well, a lot of them I think are actually aftermarket ones that you could buy and put on your car. Some of them were actually incorporated on top of your radiator cap. Yeah, I don't know if I've got the rest of it, but I think that would probably be a $10 piece purely because of what it is. Even though it is incomplete, someone may have one similar and need this part because maybe the neck looks like it was a swan or something may have been damaged. So yeah, nice early piece. I'd put $10 on it, but it's going to take quite a long time to find someone that wants it. It probably would be brass, but I wouldn't like to put it in the scrap. Speaking of brass, we have some old plugs here. These are early bath plugs, and I think, yeah, there's one down here with the original drain. So they're nice early ones. I was going to clean them up in electrolysis because brass looks really good after you've given it a big quick scrub from being in the electrolysis tank. I think that'd be pretty difficult to try and buff up on a wire wheel. You've recently seen me clean up a lot of brass stuff on the wire wheel. You would never get in around that part with the wheel. So I think these are probably worth putting in the electrolysis tank just purely because it's not much effort and they would clean up really well and value add. Hard to put a price on those. Let's go say $20 the lot, but I think if they were cleaned up, we'd probably do better. Given that I don't have a lot of time and I don't want to have a whole part of my shed dedicated to things that I'm going to clean up when I get an electrolysis tank done, I think we'll probably just sell them as they are. We'll try $20 as they are. You don't find these every day. Brass taps, I used to clean those up quite regularly. You've seen me buff one up on the wire wheel. They look quite good. Might be the quickest way to get this one presentable. The thread looks okay. But again, the electrolysis tank does a good job on taps. But again, I'm not going to put it aside waiting, so I might just buff that one up. And we get $10 for those. Better than scrap price. Okay, the biggest thing in here... Oh, there's a little redback spider in there. If I make sure I don't put my hand under there, we'll be right. Nice old set of kitchen scales, cast iron scales. These are often English made, and it says to weigh 7 pound, I think. So they're complete and undamaged. And the tray, which is often the hardest part to get, is here. I think that's the right tray for it. These trays are only pressed tin, and they often rust away because they're not very thick. It's quite a thin gauge tin. Sometimes you can get them in copper, and they're of course much nicer looking, especially cleaned up. I have traditionally pulled these sort of scales apart. Look, it's balancing beautifully. I've pulled these apart and cleaned up all the components in the electrolysis tank, and they do come up amazingly well. And it's not a lot of work other than just changing over each part in the tank and then giving them a scrub up and then reassembling it. But back to the same old story, I haven't got a tank set up. I'm not going to hold on to this until I do. I think we'll put this in the shop I'll wash it, I'll get the dust off it and make it a little bit more presentable. Probably $50 or $60 without a problem. I used to get $100 easily for them cleaned up and then lacquered, and they look amazing. If I can find a photo, I'll add one now. They do sell very well when they're cleaned up. This will still probably get $50, so that's all right. That gets it out of my shed for now. What's in the bottom here? We have some old tools. Now this one's very early, quite heavy. I think it's what they call a crow's foot. There's not really a socket, but I think it's designed, this one just would have had a bar through either hole to turn it, and it's designed to undo large nuts. I think generally on the head of an old engine. This is probably off some early piece of machinery, maybe a really early truck or a tractor. It might be suited to undo the nut where you can't normally get a spanner on it. It's like a deep reach socket, and I think they were called a crow's foot socket or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've no idea what it's off. There's no markings on it, and I think we'd put that in the shop just as we'd probably just call it an early 1900s mechanics tool perhaps, and someone will correct me if I'm wrong on that too, but I would think just $10. I'm not going to go to the trouble of trying to clean it up. Be different probably if we could see some sort of marks on it. Maybe I'd buff it on the wire wheel, but I'm sure there's nothing embossed on it. And I don't think it's going to add much to the value by polishing it up. So $10 for that old tool. A couple of other old tools here. This one, I think this one's part of an early anvil set. I don't know what these tools are called, if they have a particular name or they're just anvil tools. You'll notice on the anvil one, I think mine over there has a square hole in it. Let's go and have a look. Most old anvils have some sort of square slot in there, and these were for fitting these sorts of tools. Now this doesn't look like quite the right size, but it gives you options of moulding all sorts of different things with blacksmithing work and whatnot. I'm not sure, but I know that you could get a whole range of different fittings to go in anvils. And some of the other anvils, some square type ones, are called a swage block, and they have lots of different size holes. And Caesar's being a pain here. Get out of the road. Coco's over there in front of the fire. I feel very claustrophobic in my shed today. Anyway, that's what that is. It's an anvil tool. I think they're quite sought after because anvils do bring quite a lot of money, and I'm sure that tools are a good go with, and some people probably still use them. I don't know what that one in particular would have been used for, but I reckon that's at least a $10 piece. What have we got left in this crate? Well, there's another little hammer, early hammer. I'm not sure, or hammerhead at least. So clearly a handle goes to that hole. I'm not exactly sure what this one's for. It looks like early blacksmithing type work again. The end of that end appears to have a little bit of an indentation in it. That one's got a bit of a certain profile there, a curved profile. I don't know. It's obviously a specialist use. It might be something to do with blacksmithing. I'll probably buff that one up on the wire wheel just so it looks a bit better. We might do the same with the other anvil tool, just give it a quick buff up on the wheel. I'll put $10 on that one again. In the bottom of the crate we have a pair of curved tin snips. They're pretty rusty, but they would probably clean up okay. We might do a little bit of wire wheel cleaning on those. The curved ones are quite handy. If you've ever tried to cut a curved section on some tin with straight tin snips, it's rather difficult. These ones feel like the rivet feels good and solid. They pivot okay. They just need a little bit of a clean up from all the surface rust. There could be a brand on them. They're possibly English made. I reckon we'd get $10 for those. They should clean up quite nicely. What else have we got in the bottom here? There's another brass plug there, so that will make our $20 a lot of those better value for someone. I won't change the price. And we have some lids here. Now these ones are actually off large tins that I used to have, and I don't know if they're still around. They were a square tin that were about 12 inches high, or about 30 centimetres high, and they're McRobertsons, and I don't know if you can still read that. It says McRobertson, which were a Melbourne company. I think they were like a large general store. I know they had sweets. You often see McRobertson's tins. They had barley sugar and all sorts of stuff. But I think these larger tins might have had more traditional kitchen stuff in them. I don't know if they had flour or sugar or rice or just general consumables. And perhaps you could use the tins as canisters after you'd finished using them or emptying them. I don't think those lids are of any real value. They're just a bit too far gone. I might clean them up a little bit just with some steel wool. I really don't want to throw them in the scrap steel. They're not worth anything as far as scrap goes. I'll give them a little bit of a clean up with some soapy steel wool probably. We'll see how they come up. They may well fit some of the older jars I've got that have screw top lids, and it will make jars much more saleable. If I have a nice old jar with no lid, it's pretty hard to sell. If I have a nice early McRobertson's lid to go with it, it'll make a big difference. So I will clean those up and see what they look like. That's the end of our crate. So we might just finish this video up now. Shortly, I'll clean things up. I'll show you what things look like, and we'll get back to you with a notepad. So our cleaning jobs are finished. Let's go through and have a look at how things worked out. As I said, I just washed some of these things up, so I didn't go to too much trouble, just the old saw. The fry pan came up okay, and I think I changed the price to 10 on that one. And all I did was use some heavy stainless steel scourer, cleaned it up pretty good. I'm not going to clear lacquer that or anything, and someone could possibly still use that to cook in if they so wished. Perhaps they need a bit of iron in their diet. Again, I just cleaned it up in hot soapy water as well, so there's certainly no marks on it. We should get 10 for that just as a curio. These ones I did buff up on the wire wheel, not to any great extent, just to present them a little bit cleaner. The hammerhead, certainly a specialty tool. It's quite pitted, and there's definitely no marks on it, but yeah, it's an unusual piece. We'll get 10 for that. The tin snips cleaned up really well, and yes, they are marked Sheffield, so they are English, and they work quite well, so there'll be no problems getting 10 with those. The other things I just washed. The lids, how well did these lids come up? Just some fine soapy steel wool, and then a little bit of a wipe over with some paste wax, and they're very presentable now. You couldn't see the green paint on most of them at all, and it was still under there, so I'm going to put those in the shop at $3 for a set of early McRobertson's lids. And as I mentioned, if I do need them for an old jar, I know where to find them, and if they sell, well, that's fine. Brass tap, again, the brass polishes up so easily on the wire wheel, and I think I upped the price on that one to $15 just purely because the other ones I've been putting in the shop lately all sell the first weekend, so we might as well make a little bit more money out of them. And the scales, I just put some clear lacquer on them this morning after giving them a wash up, and they came up really nicely. So even, again, the beauty of not using electrolysis and just giving them a quick scrub often brings up any remnant paint, and then the clear lacquer really makes a nice job of it. So they're nice and clean now. They've still got that beautiful vintage early look. They'll look great in someone's kitchen, maybe as a fruit bowl or just a decorator piece, or you could find some weights and still actually use the things. So I've upped the price on those to $70. Yeah, I think we'll have no troubles getting that. So that brings us to the notepad. Prices as just mentioned, and we worked that out then for a total of $180. So pretty good on a milk crate that really wasn't even that full. More good stock for the shop. So another excellent haul out of a little box in that shed. I will tally up. I'll go through the rest of the earlier parts of this series. As I think I said, we're up to episode 17. And I'll do a rough valuation and we'll keep track of it. I haven't had a chance to go through the videos yet, but we're going to be tallying up to a fair bit of money. And as you can see in that shed, there's a lot to go. So we'll keep a running tally and I'll report on that in the next video. But there we go. Another successful episode of the emergency shed clean out. We'll catch you in the next video. Bye for now.